So howdy all. Hope everybody's having a good day. So we had a plethora of news. Use a big word there. Um, that came out at 8:30 this morning, an hour before the market opened, and it was kind of a mixed bag, if you would look at it. We had jobless claims that were kind of a little bit better than expected. We had PPI that was a little bit less than expected. We had retail sales that were better than expected, and even the manufacturing index was a little better, still negative, but it wasn't as negative as they thought it was going to be. So um, everything's kind of hanging in there if you want to kind of look at it that way. So even Powell came out this morning and said, well, let's just kind of wait and see. That's basically all he said. So the market really didn't have a whole lot to do with that for starters, I guess. It just kind of chewed around really for the first 30 minutes and finally kind of turned things back around a little bit. And I mean, you can kind of see this morning um, they kind of chewed around in here, popped up, pulled back a little bit, and finally they took off going into the European close. But right now the S&P, you got a high today up at 59.44. The S&P actually opened up at 59.49 on the year. So the question is, can it get positive? The Nasdaq's been positive all week. In fact, this morning it kept going down and testing the year open and bouncing right off of it. And so things have gotten, I say they're more positive than negative, but we're still not above the year open. They can get above the 59.49. Now we have a positive year as opposed to a negative year. We've been negative on the year for a while, since really the beginning of March. So we'll kind of see how things pan out from there and see if things can continue to kind of move on up a little bit. So outside of that, we've got uh, a lot of news coming out, I guess, of the Middle East over there with the Trump administration over there and everything like that. Right now, they're trying to make a new Iran nuclear deal. So I guess we'll hear more about that later on today or even tomorrow, whatever it may be. So I'm kind of anxious to kind of see how that comes out, and everybody might be all uh, happy about that, whichever it may be. But we'll kind of see how that pans out as well. So outside of that, we still have earnings coming out. Walmart actually came out this morning and said that they were, you know, might might. They didn't say they were. They said they might have to raise prices because of tariffs. Of course, they get a lot of imports. Not very many things in Walmart are made in the U.S., I don't think. So they try to get everything as cheap as possible and everything like that. So they might actually be moving up. And if you kind of look at how Walmart, let's see, here we go, has been doing, you can kind of see this big bar here that's today's for earnings. But one thing, because of Walmart kind of flopping around a little bit and everything like that, you notice Dollar General here on the other side of that has jumped up. So I guess they're not raising prices for any reason. So everybody, I guess, was trying to get rid of Walmart and start buying Dollar General. I thought that was kind of interesting seeing that this morning and kind of going from there. Another thing, they're fast tracking in the Department of Energy and stuff like that, permits, especially over in Utah for mining uranium and palladium. And I think with the more and more, I mean, you've heard him say drill, baby, drill, right? I mean, that's just a common thing that Trump always says. But there's also mine, baby, mine. And I was kind of thinking of that a little bit and was looking at old Terex here, and you can kind of see they've been kind of jumping up a little bit. Terex is the one that makes those humongoid trucks and stuff. So does Caterpillar. But they make all kinds of equipment for construction and mining and everything like that. So Terex might be a really good play on the longer term play of things. You might look to know about the options aren't all that expensive on it. Even though they've jumped up, we're going to have some increased premiums. But if you want to do options or just buy the stock, I think it'd probably be a good play longer term as opposed to, just trying to, trade it for the next week or two. I think it's going to be kind of a longer term thing. I think they're going to continue to do well. And especially going forward, if they can get all this stuff moving on. So, but I think right now the market's uh, trying to be more positive just because the outlook is getting a little more clear. We still have companies out there still not putting out, you know, their forecasts or anything like that. Um, and so they're still a little questionable about what's going on. But as we've been told, and what's really kind of happening is now they're getting some trade deals done. I mean, Trump's been in Saudi Arabia, Qatar, the UAE, and I know they've been over in England and stuff like that, getting stuff done. So there's just a whole bunch going forward right now that really is, um, you know, still trying to filter through it all. I'll just put it that way. Um, and we still, like I said, on Tuesday, we still have all of our stuff that we're going through, here in the United States, our economic numbers, just like this morning, we had a ton of it. And for the most part, this morning was pretty flat, if you want to kind of look at that. So, but I think going into next week, um, just making sure I was going to get that right real quickly. Uh, I'm going to say next week, I don't think there was a whole lot of economic news going on, except for the S&P Global Manufacturing, which is out on Thursday, and some new home sales numbers and stuff like that on Friday. We were kind of slow on news next week. It's the next week that we get into after, I guess, after Memorial Day, sorry. But we'll get the CPIs and the PCEs, oh, not the CPI, but the GDPs and the PCEs and stuff like that to kind of round out the month. So, Memorial Day is kind of earlier this year. The markets will be closed on that day here in the United States. So we'll have a kind of a shortened week that week going into the last week of May. But it's kind of earlier this year just because of how everything's placed. It's the last Monday of the month, and the month actually ends on like Friday or Saturday or something like that. So they put it out on the 26th. So there's that. Of course, that's a couple weeks out, so we don't have to necessarily worry about that right now. We still have earnings coming out. The retailers are going to be coming out. We're going to have Lowe's and Home Depot and stuff like that next week. And so we'll get to see how retailers are continuing to do, even though we had retail sales this morning, which retail sales were kind of robust. If you look at it year over year, we're up 5.1%. And even the month over month, we were up 0.4%. So people are still out there buying. I guess I've been one of those people kind of redoing some floors and stuff in my house. My wife and I are doing it anyway. And so we've been out there buying stuff. So just to get all that stuff done. But anyway, but I think on a longer term basis, we're going to probably see a lot more of the drilling, the mining, even construction. And I think some of the more industrial companies like the Caterpillars, the Terexes, even if you want to go into the metals and everything like that, the U.S. Steels and the Alcoas and stuff like that, I think they'll all probably end up doing pretty well on a longer term basis. Mm. Short term, I think the market's still going to be a little bit on the volatile side of things, up and down and right and left. And I don't know if you saw this yesterday or last night even. Um, uh, let's just do this. But, well, let's just do a 30-minute chart here. So this is kind of crazy. So yesterday, well, actually, day before yesterday, maybe, uh, we were trading right around 32.40, 32.50 on gold. They sold it off going into yesterday morning's market. And then they kind of hung out and they literally, when basically Asia opened up last night, they really sold gold hard last night. I was like, oh my goodness. And right when Europe opened up, they reversed that. And we went down to 31.23, and right now we're up at 32.37. So we had $100 rally in gold ever since Europe opened up last night. And this is just, I mean, part of this volatile economy, global economy that we're kind of in right now. You're going to have some big moves in these things. I know a lot of people get worried. This is here and this is there and everything like that. The only thing I can say is be patient. It's odds are gold's going higher. And even though you get these, couple 3 days that gold sells off and then flips back around and takes back off and then make new highs and then turn it back around again, it's just going to be that way. Um, and you just got to be a little bit patient with things and kind of go from there. But I think overall, gold, I mean, even with the big sell off in gold, silver really didn't move that much, which I was like, well, yeah, I pulled back $1, but it didn't pull back, 150 points like gold just did. That was just kind of crazy to me. And all of a sudden, gold bounces back up. So, and silver's still kind of hanging out. So, and that's just the kind of the markets that we're in right now. It's really hard, especially on the indexes or on a specific stock, to sit there and try to say, well, that one's going up, and it might go up for a day or two. Then all of a sudden, the market gets trashed, and it's just what we're going to be running into. And I think it's going to be like that probably going in through June. Once we get past probably 6 months of the administration, I think a lot of people will start realizing either, hey, all this stuff is working, or hey, all this stuff is not. But I think it's going to take some time to do that. And we're seeing it. And if the S&P can get back above its year open, I think we'll see a lot more, upside in equities and things like that. We'll need to get the Dow back above its year open as well. Nasdaq's already there; you don't have to worry about that one. So, but we can get the Dow and the S&P back up. I think we'll probably end up at least rallying through the 4th of July, and then we'll kind of see what happens throughout the summer months. Summers are kind of weird, really between July 4th and I don't want to say Labor Day. That's kind of a long ways out, but you could actually go from the middle of July to the middle of August. And if you just look historically, which markets don't act like they did, you know, 30 years ago, 20 years ago, even probably even 10 years ago. But historically, that time of year is very, very, very flat and it's kind of chewy, choppy, and doesn't do a whole lot. Past several years, we've had a lot of movement during those times. So it'll be interesting to see what they do between July 4th and Labor Day to see if they try to rally this thing a whole lot or try to sell it off a whole lot, whatever it is. And usually that time of year, just because it's our summer here in the United States, a lot of people are on vacations and doing all kind of stuff or hitting the beach or the lake or doing something, going to the mountains to cool off. Everybody's doing vacation stuff. And so there's a lot less volume in the market, so it moves around a whole lot easier. And the question is now, I mean, with all the electronics that we have these days, heck, I can be on a mountain somewhere and still use my digital crack device here and still trade off of it. So, I mean, that's the thing that you have now, so you don't have a decrease in volume like you used to. And it'll be interesting to see how the next couple of months kind of pan out here and kind of go from there. But, one day, a couple of days don't make a market. We really kind of got to step back and see kind of a bigger picture. And right now, it's kind of a fuzzy screen a little bit. We're not seeing it in 4K. We're seeing it in old, RGB, and so we're having to kind of decipher things a little bit just because there's so much coming at us. But I think overall, the market's probably going to continue to head up, and I think we'll see gold continue to push higher. We're still got the deficits that are out there. They haven't improved those any, so I can't see why gold's selling off at all. But there's going to be corrections here and there. Nothing ever goes straight up. So that's just the way life is anyway. But outside of that, I think we just be patient, kind of see how the earnings come out next week. Like I said, there's not a whole lot of economic news, But I'm sure we'll get a ton of information coming out of the Middle East and saying, look what we did, look how we have done, and and see what kind of deals they made besides somebody giving you an airplane. So, but anyway, outside of that, I think we'll just kind of wrap things up there and see how the week ends and see if the S&P can get above that 59.49 and maybe end the year positive at the end of this week. If you have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, we'll be back on Tuesday. Yep. Thank you all. You all have a great weekend. If you're traveling, be safe. And I'll be traveling a little bit. My granddaughter's birthday this weekend, so I got to go be there for that. And so, thank you. Appreciate it.